Hi, I'm Jessie Abbott, and we're here in Big Cypress, Florida. This is a woman's guide to USPSA.
Panteo.
Hi, I'm Jessie Abbott, and I'm a competitive shooter. Some of the disciplines I have competed in are Steel Challenge, USPSA, Multi-Gun, Bianchi, and Cowboy Action Shooting. While these are all mostly male-dominated sports, they are, however, open to women. And that's what this video is going to do. It's going to give you an intro to competitive shooting, but specifically today to USPSA. USPSA stands for the United States Practical Shooting Association. A few of its basic principles is that this is a test of expertise using practical firearms and equipment, and also that this competition is a freestyle competition. Now basically what all of that means is that this is an action sport and it's a test of one's speed and accuracy. Now throughout the competition you'll be engaging various stages with combinations of cardboard and steel targets. Now there's not a lot of women in action shooting, however there are more getting involved, but this is definitely a sport that women need to consider. It's one of my favorites. Now I'm going to talk to you about the different divisions within USPSA. There's Open, Limited, Limited 10, Production, Single Stack, and Revolver. Now it sounds like a lot of divisions, but you're going to pick one that works best for you and stick with that one. Open and Limited are my favorite divisions to compete in. They're basically the race divisions for the sport. The other divisions aren't as racy, they're more considered like a stock division. You can't do as much as you want to the gun. Now I'm going to show you a firearm used in each division. Now I'm going to show you the different firearms used for each division. Starting with Production, this is a completely stock out-of-the-box firearm which can be used in production. This is a Smith & Wesson M&P 9mm, and it also has pretty pink grips for you ladies. The next gun I'm going to show you, this is a Glock 34. It is production legal, but it has had modifications made to it which makes it different than the stock one I just showed you. The sights have been changed. It has a match grade barrel, and it has had just a little bit of trigger work, but is still within production legal modifications. The next division I'm going to show you is a single stack. Now this is referencing the 1911 platform. This gun only holds 7 or 8 rounds, and if you're asking yourself what the difference is between a single stack and the other guns, I'll show you. The magazines for a single stack and the magazines for a regular magazine are double stacked. And that's exactly what that means. A single stack, the bullets line up directly, one on top of the other, and in double stack, they're staggered side to side so that you can fit more and it's a higher capacity magazine. The next division is Limited. Now, as I mentioned, this is a race division. You can do pretty much anything you want to the gun in this division. You can change the sights to adjustable sights or fixed sights, whichever you prefer. You can do a match grade barrel. You can put a mag well on the gun, which also helps with ease of reloading. You can do a trigger job, and you can also cut the slide to make it lighter or prettier, whichever you prefer. The last division I'm going to cover is Open. Now this is my favorite division. In this division, you can do anything you want to the gun. You can add a compensator to the end of the barrel, which helps with recoil. You can do hybrid ports in the barrel if you prefer. That also helps cut down on recoil. As I mentioned earlier, you can add an optic sight to the front of the gun. And you also can do the match grade barrel, you have the mag well for ease of reloading, and you can do a trigger job. Now this is my personal gun that I use in Open, and it's my favorite because it shoots flat, it's accurate, and it's fun to shoot. Now let's talk about the gear. Now we're going to get into all the equipment needed to compete in USPSA, beginning with a timer. What I have here is a CED 7000 timer. Now what a timer is useful for in training is it's going to give you an audible start, it's going to record all of your shots as you shoot, and that way you can track your improvement as you train. They also come with pretty color sleeves, that way you can personalize it for yourself. The next thing is hearing protection. This is extremely important. There are different variations of hearing protection, and it's really just your personal preference. You have earmuffs, some with or without electronics, meaning one will completely muffle the sound altogether, or if they have electronics, it will amplify the sound but cut off at a certain decibel rate. That way when the shots are fired, they're not amplified in your ear. You can also use earplugs, either foam earplugs or molded earplugs. Or if that is not enough protection, you can double plug, meaning you can put earplugs in and then apply the earmuffs. The next thing is eye protection. You always want to make sure you have on eye protection when you're at a firing range, whether you're the shooter or not. You also need to make sure it's a ballistic rated lens. That way if any backsplash comes your way, it's not going to damage your eyes. The next piece of equipment is your holster. There are many different variations of what you can use, and most of that is going to depend on the division you're shooting in. Now I have a few examples here of holsters that can be used in production division. This one is one that fits directly on your belt. It will sit on the belt and on your hip. There's no lock, so the gun just slides right into the holster. This holster is similar to the one I just showed you, but it has a CR speed belt, and this can be used in production class. It just gives a little bit more retention on the belt. You can also add mag pouches to this belt, and it's still production legal. The next holster is what I use for limited and production. It's more of a race holster. This one can be positioned anywhere on the belt, whereas in production, the holster has to be placed behind the point of the hip. Along with the mag pouches, they have to be behind the point of the other hip. In limited or open, you can place your holster wherever is comfortable for you. You have a little bit more racier style holster. It has a lock so that your gun won't come out of the holster unless it's unlocked and you pull the gun out. And for the mag pouches, you can place them wherever is comfortable for you to grab a reload, and also you can have as many as you like. The next thing we're going to look at is your ammo. Now let's talk about your ammo. Some of the most commonly used calibers for USPSA are 9mm for production, 40 Smith & Wesson for limited, and 38 Super Comp for open. Now whatever caliber you choose, you're going to fall into either major or minor. And all that means is that your bullet is going to be traveling at a specific feet per second, which will classify you for major or minor. You can also choose between reloaded ammo or factory ammo. Now before you go to a match, you want to make sure you shoot your ammo through a chronograph. That's going to let you know what rate your bullet is traveling at and make sure that you're within major or minor. Here we have some of the targets that you're going to encounter in USPSA. These are the cardboard targets I mentioned earlier, and this is a USPSA target. Right in the center, you have your A zone. You also have an A zone in the head. Right below it is your B zone. Surrounding the main A zone is the C zone, and just outside is the D zone. Our next target is a classic target. Again, you have the A zone directly in the middle, but as you notice on this target, it's a little bit higher up in the target. You have a C zone, and you also have your D zone. If you notice, you do not have a B zone on the classic target. Now let's talk about scoring. On this target, you'll see that there are 2 shots in the A zone. This is optimal for shooting. Also, A zone hits are worth 5 points, whether you're shooting major or minor. You also have the A zone in the head, and this is worth 5 points as well. Next, you have your B zone, which is worth 4 points for major and 3 points for minor. If you come down to the C zone, this is worth the same as a B zone, and they simply use the 2 to determine between ties. Now if you notice, we have a hit that is right on the perforation line between the C zone and the D zone. Now the C zone is worth 4 for major, 3 for minor, and the D zone is scored 2 points for major, 1 point for minor. Now if you have a hit that breaks the perf, it could be either D or C, but it will always go to the higher point possible. If you notice that half of this target is black, this is what we call hardcover. Any shot placed in the hardcover will result in a miss unless you pick it up, and then you won't incur a penalty. Now if this is painted white, that is called a no-shoot. A penalty will incur for every shot placed in the no-shoot. You can still pick it up, but you will get the penalty for the shot. Now let's take a look at our stance. Now, being female, we're not built the same as men. We all know that. And we also don't have the upper body strength. So our stance is going to compensate for that lack. Now, normally I get a really wide stance. Most people you see will have either squared off or maybe just a little offset. We're going to take ours even a little bit further and move it on back. What this is going to do is let us compensate for the recoil and not having the upper body strength that the men do. Now, if you look at my feet, they're almost shoulder width apart, maybe a little bit further. My right leg is back, almost like a fighting stance. You want to make sure the weight is on the balls of your feet. If you have it in your heels, as you shoot, it's going to continue to rock you back. So you always want to make sure the weight is on the balls of your feet. If you move on up to my knees, your knees are slightly bent. And if you come on up to the waist, you're going to lean forward slightly at the waist. It might feel funny, but once you get used to it, you'll realize this is a really good stance to help offset all the recoil. Now, while we're here at the waist, let's go ahead and talk about pants and clothing and also holster position. Now, some ladies prefer to wear their pants a little bit higher, maybe around mid-waist, and some like them lower. I prefer mine just below the hip bone. What this does, it changes the position of your gun and holster and how it's going to affect you drawing the gun. Also, with the holster, if you can tell, I have plenty of space between my body and the gun. Now, men don't have this problem, but as ladies, having the beautiful curves we were given, we have to deal with this. So always make sure that your pants and your holster are in a position so that you can get the gun away from your body and have a good clean draw. Now that we've talked about stance, let's go ahead and talk about grip. Now, I use what is called a high hand right grip. If you're a right-handed shooter, you're going to take and place your hand as high as you can on the back of this gun. What that's going to do is help maintain the recoil. If your hand is down low, the gun is going to recoil to the back of your hand and you're not going to have as much control. So if you take your hand and move it all the way up, you have more control over the gun, and that helps maintain the recoil. You're going to take the rest of your fingers and curl them around the grip, and your index finger will be along the frame. Next, you're going to take your left hand, and all this space that's open here, your left hand is going to fill this empty space. You're going to start here, and the easiest way is to just roll it forward and fill this gap until your thumb is pointing downrange at your target. Then you'll take, and if you have a thumb rest, you can rest your thumb right there on the rest, or you can rest it just along the side of the frame. Now that I've shown you that side, let's take a look from the other side. That way you can see it from both angles. From this side, as I mentioned, you have a high right hand grip. You want to take it and slide it all the way up as high as you can go. Have your index finger along the frame, and then bring the rest of your fingers around the grip. And then with your left hand, roll it in. You're going to fill this empty space, point your thumb downrange, and the rest of your fingers are going to come across and squeeze your right hand. Now let's talk about grip and grip pressure. Now that you've seen how to hold the gun, your grip pressure is extremely important. Some people like to grip all with their right hand or all with their left hand, but what I do is about 40-60. I usually tell people grip with your right hand just as you would if you were shaking their hand. You don't want to dog grip it, but just enough to probably hang on to the gun will be good. And the reason for that being is if you try and make a tight fist, you can't really control your trigger finger that well. So if you just have a nice loose grip, just enough to hang onto the gun, you can move your trigger finger fast enough or slow enough, whatever you need to shoot. Then you're going to bring your left hand around and you're going to squeeze as hard as you can with your left hand. This is where you're going to control the gun. That way if you don't have a tight right hand grip, your left hand will compensate for that. Now that we've gone over stance and grip, let's move over to the draw. I'm going to show you two types of draws, one from standing and one from seated. Now again, since ladies aren't built the same as men and we don't have the upper body strength that they do, I'm going to show you how to draw to help offset that lack of upper body strength. Now from a hands relaxed position, you're going to start here. Your right hand is going to come to the gun, and remember, make sure you get that high right hand grip. Now your left hand is going to come all the way over to the gun as well. You can basically just touch your belt right here. You're going to pull straight up. Your left hand then is going to come underneath the trigger guard. You can see right here. And from here, you pull straight up out of the holster and you're going to come straight up and then push straight out. And during that time, your left hand is going to help lift the gun up and extend out. Let's see that one more time. From hands relax, your right hand and left hand move to the gun at the exact same time. You pull straight up, put your left hand under the frame, help lift, and once it's right here, extend straight out. And by doing this, once the gun is here and you start to extend to the target, you've already acquired your sight, so you're on target that much faster. Now from a wrist above shoulder draw, it's the same thing, your hands are just in a different position. Now when you have to start with wrist above shoulders, some people get their hands out here, or don't have an exact place they put them. I always like to make sure I'm consistent in everything I do. That way I know it's always going to be the same. I like to rest my fingertips just on the bill of my hat. That way I know I'm always in the same spot. Your right hand and your left hand are going to come down to the gun at the same time, just like before. You're going to lift straight up, bring your left hand under the gun, help lift, bring it straight out, and extend to the target. It's the exact same once you get it out of the holster. Let's see what those draws look at full speed. From a relaxed position, one more time. And from wrist above shoulders. And one more time on that one. Now that I've shown you the standing draw, let's take a look at seating. Now in some matches, they'll require you to start from a seated position. Now unless it states otherwise, you always want to make sure you're seated on the edge of the chair. This is going to help you get your weight on your legs and get up out of the chair easier. One thing you want to always make sure of is that your muzzle never sweeps your leg. It's always out to the side. Also, if you have to start with your back against the chair, always make sure that there's no gaps so that your magazines or your holster won't get stuck on the back of the chair when you go to get up. And from a seated position, it's basically the same as from standing. You want to make sure you're on the edge of the chair, and usually your hands have to be started on your knees or somewhere on a prop. And from here, you're going to go straight to the gun, up, and then out. Now if you have obstacles in front of you, you obviously want to make sure you clear them and also that you don't hit them with your gun. And one more time from a seated position. If you're seated on the edge, you want to go to the gun, up and out. Now that I've shown you some draws, we've gone over stance, grip, and jaws as well, let's go over some drills that are going to help you get ready to go to the range. So I've shown you your stance, your grip, and your draws. Let's take a quick look at strong hand and weak hand shooting. Now on strong hand, I'm going to blade my body away from the target. The draw is still the same. If it's relaxed, both hands come in, only this time your left hand isn't coming to the gun. You're going to bring it in tight, hold it against your chest. You're going to raise up and extend out. That's your strong hand draw. Let's take one more look at that. From relaxed, it's both hands over to the gun like on a regular draw. You're going to pull up, bring your left hand into your chest, and extend out. And you want to try and keep most of your weight on the front of your leg. If you lean into it, that's going to help with the muzzle control. Now let's take a look at the weak hand. The weak hand transition is probably one of the toughest things you're going to come across in action shooting. But we're going to show you how to do it nice and smooth. From a relaxed position, both your hands are going to the gun as normal. You're going to lift up And right here, you want your transition to take place right in front of you. That way you have total control over the gun. If you're out here, you don't have as much control. You can handle it all right here in front. You're gonna open your right hand, your left hand's gonna come in and take the place from your right hand grip, and then you're gonna bring your right hand into your chest and you're gonna extend your left hand out onto target. Let's take one more look at that. Again, from relaxed, both hands come to the gun. You're gonna lift up, bring it up front, swap nice and smooth, bring your right hand in and then extend your left hand out. Now that I've shown you your stance, your draw, your grip, strong hand and weak hand, let's show you some live fire drills, that way you're ready to go to the range.